All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I've been going over the PowerPoint presentations for Murox ASP.NET 4.6 with C# 2015 6th edition, and I'm coming to the end of Chapter 17, one of what I've called the two hardest chapters in the book. This chapter is on object data sources in AWD.NET, and I realize that much of what I'm doing in these notes are just kind of doing some reading of the PowerPoints and giving you some of my own opinions or adding some of my own verbiage, so to speak, onto what's in here. So when you use an object data source, you should know that it doesn't automatically provide paging and sorting like a grid view or list view does. To create an object data source control that provides for paging, you've got to set the first four properties that are shown here. Those are enable paging. You set it to true to support paging. The start row index parameter name is the name of the parameter in the select method of the data access class that retrieves the index of the first row to be retrieved. The maximum rows parameter name is the name of the parameter in the select method that receives the maximum number of rows to be retrieved. And the select count method is the name of the public method in the data access class that returns the total number of rows that are retrieved. All right, this last property that you see in here is the name of the parameter in the select method that is used to sort data. All right. So when a pager control on a bound control is clicked, the index of the starting row to be displayed and the maximum number of rows to be displayed are passed to the object data source control, which then passes these values to the parameters of the select method, so it knows basically how many rows there are in there to show. In addition, the select method that retrieves the rows to be displayed, the data access class must include a method that returns the total number of rows that are to be retrieved. As far as sorting goes, you set the sort parameter name property of the object data source control. When the column header for a column that provides on sorting is clicked, you're going to sort by that method, all right, or by that column name. As far as the ASPX code that's associated with this, you can see here that both the allow paging and the allow sorting methods for the grid view are set to true. The grid view control also includes a sort expression property for its product ID, name, and category columns. Now, in some cases, the select method associated with the object data source will return the data in a sorted sequence. Unfortunately, the grid view has no way of knowing that the data is already sorted. Because of that, the first time you click on a column header, it will assume that you want the column in ascending order. If you want to fix this, you can remove the order by clause in the select statement. Then you can add code similar to what's shown I believe here, all right, in figure 1717, and that's actually here. Here, the sort method of the grid view control is used to sort the products by the name column in ascending order the first time the page is loaded. All right? And then finally, what you see on page 635 in the text and on the screen here is the code for a data access class that's used by the object data source we just went over in the last figure. The class includes three methods. Get products is a select method that returns the products for the requested page in the requested order. Now, each one of these, as you see in here, uses what's called a link extension method. Link is an acronym that stands for line, what is it? Linear? I don't remember. Integrated query. Line integrated query? I don't remember. All right. in many ways, I've heard link described as kind of SQL stood up on its head, because it's got a lot of the same stuff you see in SQL, but the order is different than the way you see it in SQL. So why would Microsoft do that? And I can think of two reasons. One is they're Microsoft, all right? But even more importantly than that, what link allows you to do is link allows you to treat anything as though it's a database, even if it's not a database. And what I mean is you can take things like arrays and iterate through them as though they are a database. So there's a lot of power in this. All right? So I didn't do what I normally do here, and that is give you the objectives and copy them to the end, like I'm supposed to be doing. So we've reached the end of this chapter. And in this chapter, as I've already mentioned to you, what I consider to be one of the two hardest chapters in this book, we first talked about a long time ago, if you remember, how to develop these 3-layer ASP.NET database applications. We looked at how to create a data access class that can be used with an object data source. We looked at object data sources in depth, including the business objects that are used with them. We described how 3-layered applications work in ASP.NET. We talked about benefits of using object data sources. We mentioned the SQL connection class, the SQL command class, the SQL data reader class. We were introduced to the idea of reflection, which again we're going to hit on in later chapters. We described the way that business objects are used with object data sources, and in general terms, we described how to use paging and sorting with object data sources. Now that's it for Chapter 17. So what's left in Section 3 of our textbook is to go over Chapter 18. Chapter 18, again, in my humble opinion, is, if it's not the hardest chapter in the book, it is at least one of the top 2. And in this chapter, which starts in our textbook on page 639, it's on how to use the model binding and entity framework. Now, I'm going to go over that chapter next, and I want to finish this section today. So this is going to be in several parts, and we'll see how it goes. So I'll be back with that presentation shortly.